here we are taking off for our Greece retreat for 2023, and I was so excited to go on this trip. A good friend of mine, Jeremy, was leading this trip along with his co-host and friend, Kristen. We went with about 15 people, and on this flight, it was just myself, so I was really proud that I was so brave, had a good time, hung out on the plane, and 9.5 hours later, we were touching down in Greece. Now, at first, I was really surprised to see how arid Greece was. I've never been to Europe. I've only ever really been to Japan and Mexico. So seeing a more arid landscape than a temperate or tropical landscape was really fascinating to me. But the flight overall was wonderful. I was just excited to get on the ground and start experiencing Greece. Now, after touching down, going through customs and all that, I grabbed my bags and met up with 4 other folks in my group and our driver, and he took us over to our hotel. For 4 nights, we stayed at this beautiful hotel called Mati. It was gorgeous. And I had to eat right away. I was hungry, so I had a beautiful gyro bowl. Then after some time, we settled in and had a lovely dinner. After dinner, we looked at these views, how stunning at night. I couldn't believe we had made it, and we're here. Day 1 was done, and we're getting ready for day 2 to the Acropolis and the Parthenon. Look at this gorgeous view from my hotel. When I woke up, I couldn't believe we were here, honestly. For breakfast, we had this stunning display of buffet from fruits and yogurts to pastries and anything you could really think of, and had it on this beautiful veranda. Then we hopped on the bus and started heading to Athens. Now, in the next clip, you're going to be seeing a stadium of sorts. This was actually the endpoint for the marathon. So when the Spartans were fighting against some invaders, they had a messenger run from Marathon to this point and tell them that they had won. So they created a stadium in this place, and they actually, I believe they did use it for one of the most recent Olympics. If not, they used it during the ancient Olympics. Now, to get to the Acropolis, you had to climb up some stairs. Most of Greece was climbing because it's so mountainous, but it was a really cool experience. I mean, when you get to the top, this wasn't even at the top yet, right? So you could see out how gorgeous everything was, and you can see from far across that there was some ruins or temples there. Picture of the group. Had a great time, and we slowly made our way up to the entrance of the Acropolis. Now, as you can see, it was pretty packed. This was at 9 in the morning, but I have heard it gets a lot worse. But we were lucky that it really wasn't too bad. But just look at this amazing architectural work that has been here for thousands and thousands of years. I couldn't believe that's where I was standing in this monumental piece of history. Now they have the rafters and the supports there. They are working on not restoring it fully, but trying to support it to keep it for many, many years to come. Now, these statues were of apparently 7 or 9 beautiful women that were made, and it was really, really cool to see how detailed they still are and how well they held up over the years. This tree was an ancient olive tree that was here from when this Parthenon was first created. After as many as times as it happened of being rampaged or pillaged, it was still here. After that, we went to the Acropolis Museum and we went to a cemetery, head home and had a beautiful dinner and ready to start day 3. Day 3 brought us to Daphne Monastery and Eleusis. So, Daphne Monastery wasn't too far from where we were at, but as it was used as a waypoint for the Greek people on their way to Eleusis, as it was an entire road path that people traveled silently from the cemetery we visited the day before to Elefsina or Eleusis. Now, this monastery was originally built actually on the grounds of a temple to Apollo, but people would use this monastery as a waypoint because they knew that they could have food, shelter, a safe place to sleep, and water. So actually what we're all looking at here is a cistern that is still filled with water to this day. Kind of hard to see, but yes, it is still fully filled with water all the way down there, and it was pretty incredible that there was still water in this space. Now we went over to the main chapel area. As I mentioned before, this was originally a temple to Apollo. They tore it down and built this beautiful monastery in its stead, obviously in the Greek Orthodox tradition, with a beautiful murals and images from Jesus being baptized to his death and resurrection, and even Mary's Assumption are on these walls as well. Absolutely beautiful space. They actually ended up recreating one of the marble columns of what it would have looked like way back when, and it's really cool to see that. Next, we stopped by Aphrodite's shrine. It's a really hidden shrine and rarely open, but it was open for us. We went and made some offerings for Aphrodite and thanked her for the space. It was really cool that it was open, and rarely is. So we made our way to Eleusis. And Eleusis is actually a worship site for Demeter and Persephone. It is actually known as the second most important site to ancient Greeks, besides Delphi, which we went the next day. Demeter and Persephone were the main gods that people prayed to for a good harvest, for a good spring, because Demeter is the goddess of the harvest and Persephone is the goddess of the spring. And this entire space was dedicated to them. They are also known in their mythology for the reason we have the seasons. Long story short, Persephone was taken to the underworld by Hades, and as she was there, she learned to love him and ended up eating 6 pomegranate seeds that would indicate that she would spend half the year in the underworld with Hades and half the year in the upper side with Demeter, her mother, making things grow, and that's why we have the seasons. So as we look around these ruins, it is so cool to see how intricate and how well preserved some of the spaces are. I believe this area was used for shops and for getting little rituals and stuff. As we made our way into the museum, we saw some really, really cool pieces of art that was still there. We came upon this huge statue, and you know, it's actually a priestess of Demeter and Persephone, and she has a ritual box on her head. And I kind of thought it looked like me. It was really, really interesting. And if you notice, the flowers on her ears kind of match my tattoo. So we made our way back to the hotel, had a good dinner to start our next day to Delphi. Well, actually, I believe we ended up, yes, having pizza. So we had I had a 4-cheese pizza. The 4th cheese was blue cheese, and it was really good. So now we made our way back, chilled, had dinner, you know, now we were going to Delphi the next day. So Delphi was a long trip. So that trip was about 2.5 hours-ish one way. So we got up bright and early and headed off into the mountains. I believe Delphi is on Mount Parnassus, one of the largest mountains in Greece, besides Mount Olympus, of course. But it was really cool to see how mountainous and this land is, and the scenery, and how stunning it is. You know, personally, I've never really been around mountains much at all. I'm used to the flatlands. I've never even been to like Colorado, but it was really cool to see even this huge town, beautiful town, was built in the side of this mountain. And yes, we had to take our big old van down these small little streets, and I was praying to all the gods that we'd get through and not, you know, take anybody's stand out or card out or anything like that. So really cool to be able to navigate through the city and get to Delphi's archaeological site. Now, when in ancient times, when people wanted to visit the Oracle of Delphi, they came from all over the ancient world. They had to cleanse and wash themselves like we did here with the spring that was readily available, and then make their way up the mountain. And it was a climb. You cannot hear me huffing and puffing behind these videos, but let me tell you, it was a trek. But the mountains were so beautiful and honestly overwhelming at points, just because I've never been around mountains, and it's just immense. Now, this point here is called the navel. They considered it the navel of the universe. Story goes that Zeus sent off 2 eagles in opposite directions and to find the middle of the universe, and that was that point, and that's how it's marked. That space we see here is actually the treasury, one of the many treasuries as offerings to the oracle and to Apollo. Right here is the ruins of Apollo's temple, and it was a beautiful sunny day, just right for Apollo, and it was beautiful and wonderful. It was so cool to see the vastness of the space alongside these ancient ruins, and we ended up getting almost all the way up to the top, and then, you know, we made our way back down. We saw what we needed to see. And then we went to the museum. So this blue outlines you see here is actually the size of part of the temple. So this would be above the top of the temple. So on the sides and the top. And it was really, really cool. Now, these are supposed to be part of the pieces of the cauldron the oracle used. And then you can see there on the left, that is how the oracle used to, or the right, that is how the oracle used to sit on a tripod in this bowl. She used to sit, and that's how she would give her readings. On our way back, we are able to get a better, beautiful view of the city that we drove through and had luncheon. So then we made our way back, packed up our things, and we're getting ready to travel to Aegina, or Ahina, as they would pronounce it. So, looking forward to that in our next video. day 5 brought us our ferry to Aegina or Ahina. We took it from Athens and had to get up pretty early to catch it, but we were on time. Everyone got a seat and it was just time to hang out for 45 minutes to an hour. And then we made it to Ahina and stayed in this beautiful house called Oikia Karapanu. And in this house, it has a lot of history. I think the house was built in the 1800s, and the great-great-grandmother or great-great-daughter of one of the original owners refurbished this place and helped create it into this beautiful space that you see here. As you may notice, there are no shoes allowed in the floor to help the restoration of the floors and not bring any additional dust in. And there's no air conditioning. So your girl, who loves air conditioning and being cold, had to sleep with no air conditioning and mosquito nets. So it was a lot simpler than the beautiful hotels we were used to in mainland Greece. But it was a really cool experience to say that I was able to do that, and I was proud of myself. Now, most of our meals were actually outside, or all of our meals were outside, really. We all ate together, we set the table together, and we had chefs cook us 3 meals a day, so we were really blessed with that. But after getting adjusted, day 5 was done. Day 6 was rest, reading, and Reiki. So Jeremy was offering some oracle or some just readings in general, and Kristen was offering some Reiki. So everyone took turns and getting that done. And then when they were done, or before, or it was kind of just a hangout day. I went to the beach. As you can see, it was pretty windy, but I really just loved the fact that we can rest and relax after being in Athens. It was go, 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 go. And now we can really rest and recuperate. The beach was a really quick walk and a gorgeous walk at that. So these videos here are all of just the walk back from the beach. Dinner towards the end of the day, we ended up doing a ritual that I was more in charge of, and we did some stuff by the beach, did some self-love, self-worth stuff, and it was really, really lovely. One of my favorite things about my actual room was it looked down, and it was right near some people, so it was really fun to get some pictures. But day 6 was done, and we are ready to go to day 7 in Temple of Aphia and St. Nectarios Monastery. So we started the day off bright and early at the Temple of Aphia. She is a fertility goddess who's only worshipped at this space. So it was really cool to be able to experience that. Then we made our way over to St. Nectarios. He is a Greek Orthodox saint, so we had to wear respectful clothing, cover our heads just out of respect, but it was absolutely stunning. And, St. Nectarios is known for healing, and it was really cool to experience, a Greek Orthodox monastery and church and, highly do things differently than what I'm used to. It was really interesting. After that, we ended up heading home for lunch, and we knew we had an early start in the morning for Mary's Assumption. So that makes day 7 done. and we had to get up pretty early to go to Mary's Assumption of Mary Mass at the local Greek Orthodox Church. It was beautiful. It was a 3-hour Mass from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and we were there the whole time, and it was in Greek. Didn't understand a word of it, but you could just tell how powerful it was, and it was really cool to be there for that special day. Afterwards, we went around the port town and did a lot of shopping and got some treats and got some cool stuff and souvenirs and just had a really relaxing, fun day. I got some laundry in, as you can see, and that ended up ending our day 8. Day 9 was the ancient olive grove in Aegina. So, the ancient olive grove, it was a struggle, let me tell you. We had these small stick shift cars having to get up these very steep mountain turns to get to the top of a mountain, in which we would have to get out of the car and walk down a mountain and then 20 minutes in one direction to get to this ancient olive grove. So it was pretty tough. It was one of our tough days. It was one of our last days of doing anything treacherous or climbing or adventuring, and we did it. We descended a mountain to ascend a mountain, and yeah, it was a lot. Someone got stung by a bee. There were car troubles getting up said mountain in the first place. It was just a lot overall. But we were able to have a really great experience. As you saw, we did a little ritual. I mean, we did rituals every day, right? But I just only took a couple pictures here and there. When we got back, however, I suffered some mild heat exhaustion. But after we recovered, we did another ritual and, to round out our day. We had our final dinner with everybody at Karapanu. Then after dinner, we went to the rooftop, or the highest part in the house, and had a meditation with the caretaker's husband as he played lyre and sung some beautiful ancient hymns. It was otherworldly. It was so beautiful. We got to see this beautiful sunset and the stars that came out afterwards. Amazing. And that was day 9 and our last full day on Aegina or Ahina. So the next morning we got up, had our bags packed, and was ready to make our way back to mainland Athens. It was a beautiful experience on Aegina, and I wouldn't have traded it for the world. We got there early, got on our boat, and we were good to go for another half hour, or an hour-ish. After we got to Athens, we were able to place our stuff and go get tattoos. About 12 out of the 15 of us all got tattoos. Yours truly getting her first. If you can't tell, it is the symbol of Persephone from Eleusis. And we got celebratory gyros afterwards of our little group. After that, we just spent the time walking around, experiencing Athens. And in the evening, we all went to a big, beautiful dinner that was absolutely delicious. And then we woke up and it was time to go home. We were sent off with a beautiful, simple ritual to bless our travels. I had my arm all taped up, had a delicious breakfast sandwich at the airport, and then I was able to stare out this beautiful non-existent window for 10 and a half hours. But looking back on this experience, I would not have traded it for the world. There were some ups and downs. I caught a cold along with many other people in their trip, but I really couldn't have traded it for the world. It was such a once-in-a-lifetime experience with all these very special people, with Jeremy and Kristen leading the way, blindly sometimes, but hey, we got through it. It was everyone's first experience, and it was absolutely beautiful. Like I mentioned, we did some sort of spiritual work every single day, but I just chose to stay present and not take as many pictures. Just so appreciative for this experience, Jeremy and Kristen, and would love to have an experience like this someday again. But thank you so much.